A rookie just shocked Formula One. Kimi Antonelli crossed the finish line first in the Chinese Grand Prix, beating everyone in only the second race of the season. A dominant victory. A perfect 1-2 for Mercedes. But only hours after the race ended in Shanghai, a new question started spreading across the paddock. Not about the driver, about the engine. Because Ferrari engineers began analyzing the data from the race, and what they noticed on the long Shanghai straight immediately raised eyebrows. Every lap, the Mercedes cars were pulling away. Not in the corners, not under braking, only on the straights. And the reason may come down to one of the most sensitive systems in modern Formula One: hybrid energy deployment. According to technical analysis, the Ferrari engine begins losing electric boost earlier on the straight, while Mercedes' power unit continues deploying energy for longer. That difference alone can be worth several tenths of a second every lap. And over an entire race distance, that becomes a massive advantage. So now the big question inside the paddock is simple. Did Mercedes just build the most efficient engine on the grid? Or did the Chinese Grand Prix expose something much bigger about how the W17 is managing its hybrid system? Subscribe now, because the data coming out of Shanghai might change how the entire grid looks at the Mercedes engine. The first thing that caught Ferrari's attention in Shanghai was not the final result. Everyone already expected Mercedes to be strong here. The real surprise was how the Mercedes cars were gaining their advantage. Because when Ferrari engineers started comparing the race telemetry, a very specific pattern appeared. Sector 1, very close. Sector 2, almost identical. But Sector 3, the long back straight, that is where the Mercedes suddenly pulled away. Not by meters, by car lengths, lap after lap. And that difference was happening even when the Ferrari drivers exited the previous corner perfectly. This is the key detail. The SF26 actually had excellent traction out of slow corners. In fact, one of the biggest strengths of the Ferrari package in Shanghai was its ability to accelerate cleanly out of tight turns like the final hairpin. That traction allowed Hamilton and Leclerc to stay close through the first half of the straight. But halfway down the straight, something changed. The Ferrari began to lose energy deployment. The electric boost started fading, and the Mercedes continued accelerating. Engineers call this moment clipping, when the hybrid system runs out of deployable electrical energy before the end of the straight. Once that happens, the car relies only on the combustion engine. Acceleration drops, top speed plateaus, and the rival car keeps pulling away. According to the technical analysis from a Shanghai weekend, Ferrari's power unit begins clipping noticeably earlier than the Mercedes engine, sometimes several hundred meters before the braking zone. And that difference alone can cost between 3 and 5 tenths of a second per lap on this circuit. 3 tenths every lap. In Formula One, that is enormous. Over a full race distance, that gap becomes the difference between fighting for victory and defending third place. And that is exactly what happened in the Chinese Grand Prix. Hamilton drove a disciplined race and secured the podium. Leclerc followed in fourth. But neither Ferrari driver ever had the straight-line performance needed to truly challenge the Mercedes cars ahead. Meanwhile, Antonelli was able to control the race from the front. And this is where things become really interesting, because the Mercedes advantage was not only about top speed, it was about how long the engine could maintain its hybrid boost. The W17 appeared capable of sustaining its electric deployment further down the straight, which means one of two things must be happening. Either Mercedes has developed a significantly more efficient hybrid system, or the team has found a smarter way to manage the energy throughout the lap. Both possibilities would represent a huge technical advantage, because hybrid energy management is one of the most complex parts of a modern Formula One power unit. The system must recover energy under braking, store it in the battery, and then deploy it in carefully controlled bursts during acceleration, all while respecting strict limits set by the FIA. Teams cannot deploy unlimited electrical energy. The amount per lap is regulated, which means efficiency becomes the real weapon. If a team can recover more energy during braking, or waste less during deployment, they can extend the electric boost further along the straight. And that is exactly what Ferrari engineers are now trying to understand. Because in Shanghai, the Mercedes hybrid system looked almost perfect, smooth, consistent, and extremely powerful at the end of the straight. For now, there is no official protest, no accusation, only analysis. But in Formula One, technical analysis is often the first step before something bigger happens. And if Ferrari believes the Mercedes engine has found a significant advantage in hybrid deployment, The next races of the season may turn this quiet technical curiosity into a full-scale development battle across the entire grid. But what makes this story even more fascinating is how visible the difference became during the race itself. Because the Chinese Grand Prix produced one moment that perfectly illustrated the entire situation. The start. Lewis Hamilton launched extremely well from third on the grid. For a brief moment, the Ferrari looked capable of challenging both Mercedes cars into the first sequence of corners. The SF26 showed exactly what it does best. Excellent traction, strong front-end grip, confidence under braking. Hamilton actually managed to position the Ferrari aggressively in the opening sector, briefly threatening the lead. But then the cars reached the long straight, and everything changed. Antonelli moved into the slipstream. The Mercedes deployed its hybrid power, and suddenly the W17 surged forward. The Ferrari simply could not match the acceleration. Within seconds, Antonelli reclaimed the lead before the final hairpin of the lap. That moment became the perfect visual explanation of the entire weekend. Ferrari strong in the corners, Mercedes dominant on the straights. From that point forward, Antonelli controlled the race with remarkable composure. For a driver still early in his Formula One career, his performance looked incredibly mature. He managed tire degradation carefully, kept the car inside the optimal operating window, and maintained a comfortable gap to his teammate George Russell behind. At several points in the race, the margin between the two Mercedes cars fluctuated between 5 and 9 seconds depending on traffic and pit stop phases. But Antonelli never truly looked under pressure. The Mercedes pit wall played the race very intelligently. Their strategy was conservative: protect track position, avoid unnecessary risks, and keep both cars in clean air whenever possible. Because with the fastest package on the grid, the biggest danger was not speed. It was traffic. A badly timed pit stop could have dropped Antonelli into the midfield pack. And in modern Formula One, dirty air can destroy the performance of even the fastest car. So Mercedes focused on keeping their drivers out front. The plan worked perfectly. Antonelli crossed the finish line first. Russell secured second place. A dominant 1-2 finish for Mercedes in Shanghai. Meanwhile, Ferrari executed a completely different kind of race. Instead of attacking the leaders, the team focused on maximizing points. Hamilton drove a calm and disciplined race to secure third place. He understood early that fighting Mercedes in a straight line was almost impossible. So he concentrated on maintaining tire performance and defending from cars behind. Leclerc followed in fourth after a similarly controlled race. The result confirmed what many engineers already suspected. The Ferrari SF26 is extremely competitive in terms of chassis balance. The car is strong in medium speed corners, very stable under braking, and excellent at managing tire degradation during long stints. But the power deficit remains visible. Every time the Ferrari approached a Mercedes on the straight, the same thing happened. The gap grew, not dramatically, just enough to prevent any real overtaking opportunity. And that is why Ferrari engineers are now studying the energy deployment patterns of the Mercedes power unit so carefully. Because if Mercedes has discovered a more efficient way to recover and deploy hybrid energy within the FIA limits, that advantage could define the entire season. Hybrid efficiency is one of the few areas where massive performance gains can still appear in modern Formula One. Even small improvements in energy recovery or deployment timing can translate into several tenths per lap. Over a full championship season, that becomes decisive. Right now, there is no official complaint from Ferrari. No protest, no investigation, only curiosity. But in Formula One, curiosity spreads quickly. Engineers from multiple teams are already analyzing the Shanghai data, trying to understand how the Mercedes engine sustained its hybrid boost for longer on the straight, trying to replicate the same efficiency, trying to close the gap. Because if the rest of the grid cannot match that hybrid performance, then the Chinese Grand Prix may end up being remembered as the moment Mercedes revealed the most powerful engine package in Formula One. But the real reason the paddock is paying so much attention to the Mercedes engine goes beyond one race. Because Shanghai exposed something that every Formula One engineer understands immediately. Efficiency. Not just raw power. Not just top speed. True hybrid efficiency. And in modern Formula One, that is where championships are often decided. To understand why this matters so much, you have to look at how a hybrid power unit actually works during a lap. Every time the driver brakes, the system recovers energy. That energy is stored inside the battery. Then, during acceleration, the electric motor deploys that stored energy to boost the power of the combustion engine. But there is a strict limit. The FIA regulates exactly how much electrical energy can be deployed per lap. No team can simply add more power, which means the real advantage comes from something much more subtle: how efficiently that energy is used. If one engine wastes less energy during deployment, if it recovers slightly more during braking, or if the control software distributes the energy more intelligently throughout the lap, that engine can maintain its boost longer. Exactly what we appeared to see in Shanghai. Ferrari engineers noticed that the Mercedes power unit continued deploying electric energy deeper into the long straight, while the Ferrari system began clipping earlier. That difference may only last a few seconds per lap, but those seconds happen at the most critical moment: full acceleration, maximum speed, and the result is a car that keeps pulling away even when the rival exits the corner perfectly. In fact, some technical estimates from the weekend suggest that the Ferrari engine may lose between 3 and 5/10 of a second per lap on the Shanghai straight alone due to earlier clipping. That is an enormous margin in modern Formula One, and it explains why Mercedes looked so comfortable controlling the race. Antonelli did not need to push aggressively. He could manage the pace, preserve the tires, and still maintain a safe gap to the Ferrari behind. Meanwhile, Russell's second-place finish confirmed something equally important. The advantage was not limited to one driver. Both Mercedes cars showed the same behavior: strong acceleration, extended hybrid deployment, and consistent top speed at the end of the straight. For Ferrari, the situation is complicated, because the SF26 itself appears extremely competitive. The chassis balance is excellent. The car is very strong through medium speed corners, and its tire management during long stints may actually be better than several rivals. But without closing the power gap, victories will remain difficult. That is why Ferrari engineers are now focusing heavily on the hybrid system. Energy recovery, battery efficiency, deployment strategy, every possible area where they might find extra performance. Because catching Mercedes in the corners will not be enough. They must also match them on the straights. And that brings us to the biggest question now circulating through the paddock. Is the Mercedes advantage purely the result of brilliant engineering? Or have they discovered something in the hybrid system that other teams have not yet understood? Right now, nobody outside the Mercedes garage truly knows the answer. But one thing is certain: every team on the grid is studying the data from Shanghai. Every engineer is analyzing the telemetry. And every rival is trying to understand exactly how the W17 managed its energy so efficiently throughout the Chinese Grand Prix. Because if that advantage continues in the coming races, Antonelli's victory in China might not just be remembered as a breakthrough moment for a young driver. It could become the race where the entire grid realized just how far ahead the Mercedes engine really is.